Romeo and Juliet is a play written by Shakespeare. It is a tragic love story where the two main characters, Romeo and Juliet, are supposed to be sworn enemies but fall in love. Due to their family's ongoing conflict, they cannot be together, so they kill themselves because they cannot cope with being separated from one another. Romeo and Juliet is a Shakespearean tragedy. A timeline of the major events in the plot of Romeo and Juliet. Two wealthy families, the Montagues and the Capulets, have another brawl in the city of Verona. The prince and the townspeople cannot cope with the constant fighting, so the prince declares that the next person to break the peace will be killed. Romeo Montague and his friends gatecrash a Capulet party and Romeo meets Juliet Capulet. He falls in love with her instantly. They are shocked to discover they are sworn enemies due to their feuding families. Friar Lawrence marries Romeo and Juliet. Romeo goes to celebrate his marriage with his friends, Mercutio and Benvolio, but gets into a fight with Juliet's cousin, Tybalt. Tybalt kills Mercutio and Romeo avenges his death by killing Tybalt. The prince banishes Romeo because he killed Tybalt. Both Romeo and Juliet are heartbroken. Capulet, Juliet's father, decides she should marry Paris. Juliet refuses and goes to Friar Lawrence, where they come up with a plan for Romeo and Juliet to be together. Juliet fakes her death and lies in a tomb waiting for Romeo to come so they can run away together. Romeo doesn't receive the message about the plan, so thinks Juliet has actually died. He goes to Verona and sees Juliet in her tomb, dead. Romeo drinks poison so he can be with Juliet in death. She wakes up to discover Romeo is dead. Juliet kills herself with his dagger. The Capulet and Montague families vow never to argue again. The play opens with a prologue that highlights to the audience the conflict between the two families, the Montagues and the Capulets. It is described to be an ancient grudge. The family's servants have an argument, which quickly turns into something more violent and draws the families into the conflict. Romeo's cousin, Benvolio, and Juliet's cousin, the fiery Tybalt, get involved in the fray. The heads of the families, Capulet and Montague, also get involved but are quickly stopped when Prince Aeschylus arrives and puts a stop to the brawling. He declares that anybody fighting on the streets of Verona will be killed. He hopes to put a stop to the fighting and have peace in his city once again. Romeo meets Juliet. Romeo and Juliet meet at the ball and fall in love. Mercutio, Romeo's best friend, decides it would be a good idea to gatecrash a Capulet party. Romeo, Mercutio and Benvolio, Romeo's cousin, all go and have a good time. Whilst dancing, Romeo meets Juliet and is struck by her beauty. He speaks with her and they kiss, declaring their love for one another. As he leaves, Romeo asks Juliet's nurse for Juliet's name. The nurse tells him, and he is shocked to discover they are sworn enemies and that she is the daughter of Capulet. Juliet feels the same way about Romeo when she discovers his real identity. Romeo sneaks into the Capulet mansion where he meets Juliet and they decide to get married. The next day, Friar Lawrence marries Romeo and Juliet in secret. He secretly hopes that it will end the conflict. Detailed plot summary. Tybalt kills Mercutio. Tybalt fights with Mercutio. Romeo tries to stop them. Romeo meets with Mercutio and Benvolio to tell them about his marriage to Juliet. However, he is soon stopped when he sees Tybalt Capulet there arguing with Mercutio. Tybalt challenges Romeo to fight, but Romeo declines, saying that he loves Tybalt like family. Tybalt is confused and angry at his response and repeats his demand. When Romeo declines again, Mercutio loses his temper and cannot believe Romeo will not fight like a man. He takes Romeo's place and Tybalt and Mercutio fight. Romeo tries to stop the fighting. Tybalt, trying to injure Romeo, accidentally stabs Mercutio. Mercutio dies a slow, painful death. He curses the Montague and Capulet houses, blaming them for his death. Romeo kills Tybalt and is banished. Romeo, angered by Mercutio's death, goes searching for Tybalt. They find each other and fight. The fight ends when Romeo kills Tybalt. Realizing what he has done, he flees. The prince arrives on the scene and declares that Romeo must be banished and must leave Verona immediately. Juliet finds out the news of her cousin's death and Romeo's banishment and cannot cope with the sadness. She is heartbroken and confused. Before Romeo leaves Verona forever, he and Juliet spend the night together and consummate their marriage. Romeo leaves in the morning and they are both heartbroken. Juliet refuses to marry Paris. Capulet decides Juliet should marry Paris, as this will make her feel better following her cousin's death. He relays this news to his daughter and she is furious. Juliet defies her father and tells him she won't marry Paris and she will not be at the church as arranged. He is horrified with her response and tells her she must be married to Paris or else he will disown her forever. Juliet flees to Friar Lawrence where she tells him this news. Friar Lawrence and Juliet come up with a plan where she will fake her own death. Juliet fakes her death. Romeo and Juliet lay dead side by side. Juliet drinks a sleeping potion the night before her marriage to Paris. In the morning, she does not wake and she is pronounced dead. They take her to the Capulet tomb where she will wait for Romeo. Friar Lawrence writes a letter to Romeo informing him of their plan, however, the letter doesn't get delivered to Romeo and he is told that Juliet is dead. Romeo takes poison. Distraught, Romeo buys some deadly poison and heads to the Capulet vault. On seeing Juliet, he drinks the poison so he can be with her in heaven. Juliet finally awakens to see Romeo there with her, however, she quickly realizes he has drunk poison. She kisses his lips to try and taste the poison herself, but it doesn't work. So, instead, she kills herself with Romeo's dagger. Capulet and Montague repent. Realizing that their 2 children have died because of their conflict, Capulet and Montague are mortified and declare they will honor their children's names forevermore. They vow never to argue again.